I've had many years of training and many years of experience watching kids and parents interact, and I've answered a lot of questions that parents have over the years. But I see families for maybe 10 or 15 minutes at a time. It's just a little snippet of their lives. So it's easy for me to lose perspective on parenting. I have some questions of my own. I wanted to get inside the minds of modern, real-day, boots on the ground parents. So this week, I recorded a conversation I had with Evan Berger. He's an actor, comedian, and co-host of the Dumb Dad podcast. So who better to ask? Listen as we make you feel just a little less dumb than we are. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the pediatrician next door. I'm that doctor friend you call for practical advice about your kid's health. I mix the science of medicine with the reality of parenting. One of the most amusing things to me is when there are 2 or 3 kids from the same family in my exam room, especially in the summer when they're covered in sand and sunscreen and they're in my office at 4:20 in the afternoon and they're flopping on the ground and sighing and fighting and fidgeting, and they act like all they've done all day is be cooped up inside my office. And it's I can see the evidence. You're covered in paint and glitter, or they're still in their bathing suit. So I clearly know they had fun most of the day. Yet the kids act like they haven't done anything in 6 months. So that's where full-time dad Evan Berger and I started our conversation. Here's what he told me.
The beach takes so much effort. to pack up the car, get all the things in the car, plan snacks, all the stuff you drive all the way to the beach. Then you walk 300 yards in the sand with 300 pounds of gear. And it's if it's a little too hot or a little too something, you're can we go home? You're no.
And then they say, we never do anything fun.
Yeah, we never do anything fun. We never get to go anywhere. Whatever. You're oh, okay.
Okay, so that actually leads right into my next question. Parents tell me all the time, they ask me, when can I start swim lessons? And they want to take their 2-month-old either in the pool or in the ocean. I'm why do parents insist on taking their infants into water?
Why would you say the ocean? That is
Right, it's a cesspool.
I'm afraid of the ocean. Let's get that first thing. Well, here's the thing. You can tell me, but I think there's no such thing as too early per se. But there's a difference between water survival, which is what you would have an infant take. And then we've just gone through the YMCA and had our kids in swim lessons since they were 18 months old. And it was the first part from my experience watching them, when that's especially you're in the water with them when they're that young, is not teaching them how to swim. It's getting them used to being around and in water, getting their face wet in the water. And then once they have a little bit more control over their bodies and things, then they move into the next level where the teachers are with them and they'll still hold them all the way through, but it's teaching them to blow bubbles in the water. So it's all minimal progress to get them to where now my kids are 9 and 6 and they're both good little swimmers.
Yeah, it's horrifying to a pediatrician to hear about a 6-month-old in the pool because we know it's filled with adenovirus. But I have to tell you, this was so stupid, but I wanted my son to learn how to swim. So I put him in that safety course, the 18-month-old one, where you go in the pool for 15 minutes every day to learn. He figured out after 3 days that if he pooped his pants, he would miss the entire lesson. So he would hold it and then he would either poop as I was handing him to the instructor, or if he couldn't poop, he would just start yelling, I'm pooping, I'm pooping.
This is a smart kid. That's a forward thinker.
He's a real smart kid.
That's a chess versus checkers kind of situation.
Right. Okay, here's another one that I do not understand. Why parents travel, especially on an airplane, with a child between age 1 and 2. You need to wait until the iPad will entertain them, right? What's the pressure to travel?
Well, the pressure to travel would be that if you're somebody like me, and whereas my parents live 2 states away, and yes, they can come down and I can go, but it was kind of that. It's picking a time a year when it was fine to go. But I don't know how long you don't go anywhere for how long. It's 6 weeks, 8 weeks or something like that. If you don't come anywhere. Mm-hmm. We traveled with our kids when they were younger. now my children are pretty good little travelers. They understand what the airport is. They understand how to behave at the airport, how to behave on the airplane, and like all these things. We only did one flight. It only took one time when my daughter was like 16, 18 months old, something like that. And we thought like, she'll just be lapped. We don't need to get her a ticket. And it was like half an hour into the flight, it was like, not doing that again.
Right.
Because they squirm and need to move around and stuff. And like, they do not want to sit in your lap for, I mean, that was like a 2-hour flight.
Right. And it felt like 18 hours.
It felt like 18 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
I know after age 1, they're like the mayor of the plane. Like once they've learned how to walk, they're like, I need to walk down the aisles. I have to greet everyone. I need to eat that lady's snacks. I know.
Yeah.
And you're like, just sit in my lap.
Yeah. But then as long as the kid isn't screaming on the flight, if they're walking up and down waving, people are like, oh, hi. You know, like they don't mind that too much. So that's fine.
Oh my God. My friend, she accidentally dislocated her child's elbow trying to get him back in the seat for landing. Yeah. True story.
I did not go that far. I once took my kids out to like pancakes and, you know, it's like, let's let mommy sleep in. Let's sneak out to pancakes or whatever it was, you know? And so we were out to pancakes and my daughter wanted her jacket off. And so I took her jacket off, but I guess I didn't realize that like the sleeves were rolled up. So they were kind of tight. And so I went to pull it and she immediately like grabbed for her elbow. And I was like, what? And then it was just like 25 minutes of like tears and crying. And she's like really crying. I was like, I'm so sorry. Turns out it was like.
Was it a nursemaid's elbow?
It was a nursemaid's elbow.
Oh, those are awesome. They're so fun.
And it was wild. And so like, I was like, I don't know what happened. And then it's like 3 hours in the urgent care trying to be seen. Finally, we get told what it was. And it was like, okay. But I'm sure you know that if that happens once, it can happen again.
Yeah.
And from the age of 2 to probably 4.5, she did it like once every 2.5 months.
Oh my God. Did you put her elbow back?
Yes. The second time we went to urgent care, I watched them do it and I was like, can you show me how to do that? And they're like, well, it's very tricky. You need to learn for this and this.
It's not that tricky.
As soon as I went home, I was like, oh, or let's look at a YouTube video. And I looked up a YouTube video and I just watched this lady explain it like so clearly that I was like, I don't really, there's no way to like make it worse. It's just not going to work. And then we have to go but I did exactly what they said. And you could literally feel the little click in your thumb when you push it. Like,
oh, it's so satisfying.
Like, okay, shake daddy's hand. And we go, oh yeah. And so every time she did it, but she'd be like on the couch and like push both of her hands to get up off the couch and do it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, poor kid. That's exactly what I was talking about though. Yeah. So the moral of the lesson is pick your children up under their armpits.
Yes.
Not by their hands.
And if they say, take my jacket off, you say, no. You're sweating in here just like I am.
I love that video that you did about why kids are sick all the time. Mm-hmm. So why do you think kids are sick all the time?
Their immune systems start at 0 and they have to build it up by learning how to eat bugs off the floor and putting pizza in their mouth that you don't know where they got it from and licking the handrail at the zoo. And like,
that's exactly right.
Every time you turn around, like, oh, where did you get gum?
Right.
You know, and like,
we haven't had gum in our house in 3 years.
So why are your kids sick all the time? Because that's how kids are. And they're in school with 20 other kids that are just like that.
Yeah.
Talking this close to each other all day long. I mean, it's pretty clear to me why they're sick all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It just sucks because then it means you're sick all the time.
No, that's true. That's true. You got to build up your parent immune system, right?
Yeah, your parent immune system is a real thing. Actually, I have a question for you about going at your own pace. My daughter she just turned 5. And when she turned 4, she said, when I turn 4, that I'm going to stop sucking my thumb. And she still sucks her thumb for comfort. It's like a comfort thing, which is fine. But also the dentist points out like she's got like a little cavity between her teeth. And so it's like, we try to remind her, but she even acknowledges I'm trying to, but it's so hard to stop. So we've looked into, we looked into like painting the nail with stuff that's like bitter tasting and see how that goes. It's literally on its way to our house.
I do have a system. Actually.
Do you have a system?
I do. Lucky for you, your daughter is old enough that she can be bribed. And so stopping sucking the thumb is 100% about bribery, and it's a long system. So basically, you get on board with them and you make this plan that she's going to stop sucking her thumb. And then you have to put socks over both of her hands and pin them to her pajamas if she sucks her thumb at night, because she won't be able to help herself. And then you get a drawer or a box in her bedroom and it's empty. And you tell her when she wakes up in the morning, if she has not sucked her thumb, there will be a prize in that box. And you do that every single day for like 30 days. And all during the day too, everybody else has to encourage her not to suck her thumb. And she has to be really proud of it. And she has to have someone who is not you or her mom to be her like coach that she calls every day and gets to brag to. It's like a whole thing. And then at the end of it, she gets her giant prize. So if she goes 30 days without sucking her thumb, like you're going to Disneyland. But I outline like exactly how to do this plan and it works. I got it from an oromyofunctional therapist who fixes kids' teeth. So she's trying to prevent that. Yeah.
Yeah. We also saw these they're like gloves that they wear that like only cover like this part of their hand.
Yeah. I have a kid who wears that at daycare. He has like a little plastic thing so he can't suck his thumb.
Yeah.
That's a good device.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. It's something we're not like super concerned about because we know like she's not going to be sucking her thumb when she's like a 30-year-old, but that's a lot of the overwhelming parts of parenting is like that's one of those things where you're like, I don't know how strict we should be. I don't know if we're not being strict enough, when you're addressing that kind of stuff, where you still want to allow your kid to have some sort of control over their own comfort. So there's that as well.
Nearly 1 in 3 kids deal with constipation and pooping problems. Their little guts are overwhelmed by factors like poor diets and antibiotic overuse. One of the best ways to help support digestion and their immune system is by adding prebiotics to their daily routine. Did you know that 70 to 80% of our immune cells live in the gut? A happy gut means a healthy kid, and prebiotics help feed and increase good gut bacteria in your kiddo's microbiome. In partnership with nutrition scientists and pediatricians, Begin Health created daily growing up prebiotics. It's the perfect prebiotic with 3 grams of fiber in every serving to support smoother and softer number 2s, so potty time is smoother for the whole family. My patients tell me they love this tasteless and textureless powder because it mixes into their kids' favorite drink or food, making it easy to give to even picky eaters. Visit beginhealth.com today and get 25% off your order with my promo code NEXTDOOR, NEXTDOOR. Predictable potty time and the perfect poop is possible with Begin Health Daily Growing Up Prebiotics. And now, more profound questions from Dumb Dad, Evan Berger.
How is it that kids, when they're little, can eat? How do they grow like weeds on a diet of Jell-O and wheat thins?
My God, that's a great question. They do suck the calories out of everything they eat, don't they? I know. I think if you track them all day long, they are actually eating more than we think they are. And like wheat thins are fortified. That's why they're fortified with like all kinds of vitamins and stuff. But yeah, okay. So if you look at the growth curve of a kid from 0 to 3 months, they like skyrocket their weight, right? So from 0 to 6 months, they double their weight. And then by a year, they've tripled their birth weight. And then after that, a kid might only gain like a pound in 6 months. So they don't really grow. So they just start to put all their energy into, annoying us and crawling on things, learning how to talk, and they stop eating. Right? Yeah. They're like snakes. They have those days where they eat absolutely everything, and then they have days that they don't. Maybe we should take a lesson from them.
It's so funny. I mean, my daughter is so picky. She's definitely the picky little eater, and it's like so funny. She encourages her brother to try things.
Oh,
and he does a good job trying things, and he actually is a pretty well-rounded eater. He'll try anything, and he likes all different kinds of foods that I think maybe normal kids at like around 8 or 9 would not like. But my daughter will also be the one when it's like, if neither of them have ever had something, she'll say, try it. You might like it. And I think, well, why don't you try it too? No.
That's so funny.
No. He can do that. I'm not doing that.
There is this developmental thing, right? So this is how I think it goes, is that like around a year when you start eating food, developmentally, you have to see other people eat food to believe that it's like edible.
Mhm.
And otherwise, like your caveman brain is like, I'm not eating that tomato. That could be poison, right?
Right,
And then
right.
after age like 3, I think there's a new reflex that kicks in. That's like everything that you buy in great volume, I developmentally need to oppose whatever you do or say. And so now anything you buy that you think they once loved, they will now automatically hate. And I think it's a reflex.
That's a deep cut.
Have you
'cause it's
witnessed
so
that?
true. Yeah, because you finally discover that they like something, and so you go to Costco and buy 5 gallons of it, and then the next day you don't like it anymore.
Right. I think it's an inborn reflex.
It's an inborn reflex. It's also just like that's parenting, man. That's you don't get to you can't win everything, and they will remind you cannot.
Do you want to talk about screen time or bedtime?
Let's do screen time. Screen time is that was another one of my questions, which was basically like the limit question. It's like a little bit different to me because I think that's hard. That's a hard question. It's like, it's to me, it seems mostly like how you utilize screen time. Like, what do you use it for?
Mm-hmm, that's exactly right.
Like if your kids are crying, you're like, okay, stop crying. Here's this. Or as soon as you go to the restaurant, as soon as you hit the table, get on your iPad, which means you cannot learn anything about what it means to be in a restaurant or how to be in a restaurant or anything like that.
That's exactly right. It's like you listen to this show. Yes, kids need to learn how to self-regulate. So if every time they're crying, you try to calm them by giving them an iPad to look at, that doesn't help them learn how to stop crying and calm themselves down. But if you're watching Bluey together and talking about it and laughing together, that's a very different scenario.
Or you're crying and they're laughing.
Right.
Because Bluey has the Pixar magic in there, which is like, by the way, this is for you too. And then you're like,
I know.
it's like melting down as kids are like, it's an 8-minute cartoon. What's the matter with you?
My friend wrote a children's book recently and I gave it to another friend. He was reading it to his kids and the kids, there's a dog that dies in the book and the kids are like, fine. And dad can't finish the book because he's crying. He's like, this is bullshit.
My son definitely knows. Like my son knows like there's parts of episodes of Bluey where he'll be like looking over at us and we're just like,
are you okay, Dad? Are you going to be okay? Can we make it through?
Like, oh my God. Yeah.
The screen time thing. Yeah. You just got to keep your kids really, really busy is one thing so that they don't have time for it. Like get them in activities and then also just have a screen time. Like 4:30 to 5:15 is screen time. And then all day long when they're like, can we watch? You're like, well, is it screen time? Because that's not what the clock says.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
I think the hard part then is like some days, especially if you have like, Kevin and I both work from home basically, and then mommy's at work or mommy's working from home or whatever. And some days you just like need them to not be loud, but to stay busy. So some days there is extra screen time.
Yeah.
You learn that, then it's like, well, I would like some extra screen time today. You're like, nope.
Right now they push the boundaries like constantly. It's the same thing like at bedtime where if you let them stay up late one night, then they're like, well, what's different about tonight? Like they really need strict rules, right?
They really do need strict rules. And it's, I don't know, let me ask you about that too, because like, I don't firmly believe this, but this term rules are meant to be broken, right? So then they can understand that tonight we're going to watch a movie. It's 8:30. I know we're going to start it now. We're going to stay up super late. We're going to make a fort in the living room because that can be okay as well, right? But also to set the boundary that like, but that's not every night. We cannot do that every night. It's not something we do all the time. It's a special occasion.
Right. And you can't really do that with a 3-year-old up to probably age 5 because they are very concrete, rules driven. But after age 6 and like in that 8 and 9-year-old, they are starting to develop their own autonomy. And so they're starting to understand that rules are flexible. Like a 5-year-old doesn't know that a rule is flexible, but a 9-year-old will start to argue with you. Like if you say you need to go practice piano, your 9-year-old's going to be like, but I don't want to. It's okay to go back and forth and argue with them and find out like, well, why don't you want to practice piano?
Right.
Let's talk about it. Okay, it is okay to watch a movie tonight because it's a special night. They start to understand that. So, but not.
It's interesting that you pronounced homework like piano. Because that's the thing that they don't want to do.
I don't want to do my homework.
Like,
neither do I. I also do not want to do my homework.
Neither do I, because I don't understand the math. That's the thing. We use that a lot is like, okay, you don't have to do your homework, but you have to take this to your school tomorrow and tell your teacher, I didn't do it because I didn't want to. And then they're like, Where's my pencil?
Yeah, I like those natural consequences, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to get recess if you don't turn in your homework? Because I don't care.
It's like, it's always kind of like kids want choices, right? So you give them the choice. Yeah, you don't have to do it. I'm not going to make you do it, but you will have to go to school tomorrow, and then that perspective of that is like, now I'm not the bad guy at all. And
see, that's great parenting. That's good parenting.
I like your example of how concrete it is for a 3 to 5 year old. Cause like my daughter is so concrete, like rules driven. And not only that, but she's 5, just turned 5, and my son is 9. And the difference between the two of them is massive sometimes when it comes to understanding things like that. And like my son does have quite a bit of autonomy. He probably developed it more like at 7. He kind of started to do the things he wanted. And he really wanted to pierce his ear when he was like 8. It was for his 8th birthday. And we were like, okay. I've had mine since I was like 19, and I didn't even do it until I was like 19. But we were like, I mean, why, if he wants to do it, why would he say no? Like, why would we tell him he cannot do that? He really wants to do it. It's not like the end of the world that if he doesn't like it or something like that, So we thought like, yeah, let's give him the choices now to, cause and effect in different ways in his life, and how things like, do kids say something about it? Do they not say something about it? Like none of his friends even believed it was real. They had to walk around behind and were like, no way, that's fake. And they were like,
and then they all wanted earrings too, right?
Yeah.
And everybody calling up like, Evan, excuse me, did you actually let your child pierce his ear?
Like, what? No. Some lady named Claire did it.
That's so interesting though, because they do start to develop like who they are. So you know how he used to love mom and like wanted nothing to do with you. And then all of a sudden now I wonder if he's starting to feel like, oh wait, I am a boy and I'm going to be like my dad and he has an earring.
In certain things, he is like that. And so in other ways, he's not. He's still, my son wears he's like me as well. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a very sensitive kid. He's very empathetic. And so he still goes to mom for a lot of stuff like that. Even though I love having conversations, when I get the chance, when he feels comfortable with giving those kind of conversations with me, I love the chance to do that because I've had like anxiety throughout my life. And so when he starts to feel anxious feelings and has anxiety as well, I can talk him through that kind of stuff. When we started having kids, you're thinking like, I hope, all parents are, I hope my kid's healthy, these things. And then when we started seeing early signs of anxiety in my son, it was like, oh man, the first reaction is, oh, I feel so bad that he is starting to show signs of that. But quickly my wife and I realized, actually, this is something I can talk with him about it and have some sort of point of knowledge base, as opposed to him expressing something to me that I have no idea about. So,
but you've been through this and you have the tools so you can start to teach him early.
Yeah,
and you recognize it early, which is incredible.
Yeah. So it's so funny, the dynamic between the two of them. And what you're saying is it's not necessarily just the age gap, it's developmentally. They are in different tiers.
But you start kindergarten when you're developmentally ready. So she needs to like not be napping, and she needs to kind of start to make that switch from concrete rules to like, okay, the world has some decisions and I can make decisions. But she still needs to like sit crisscross applesauce on the carpet.
Yeah. She is like laser focused to the teacher.
Is she like a little police officer too, where she's like complaining about your son doing something? She's like, you can't do that. That's not allowed.
Yeah. There's a lot of tattling going on in my house at the moment.
Oh, so that is 100% related to that age.
Yeah. They both are in gymnastics, and they have like a little playroom in gymnastics, but so like for siblings or whatever, but they don't want any food or drinks in there. And she will like go in there and tell other kids like, hey, you can't have food in here.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
You're not wrong that you can't have food in there, but you don't need to be the police officer.
Let's see how that goes over. You're going to make some friends in gymnastics?
I know. Is that a bad thing to do? Something when my wife are in the car and it's like back and forth, and then we'll be like, guys, mommy won't stop doing this. And like, they are quiet immediately. They're like, why are you telling on mom? Like, oh, that's what we're doing.
That might be that's a good strategy. Parent like right back what they're doing to you.
I don't know if that's
wait a minute.
Sometimes we do it and think like, well, that got them quiet. And then it was kind of they learned very quickly like what they were doing. But also like, I'm really sure what was the long-term effect of that, the way we just did there.
That's just holding up a mirror to them, like, guys, look at what you're doing to yourselves.
I know. It's like, it's so funny. Like they need to express feelings and see limits and boundaries. And so that's another way of testing it. Like, can I get away with saying this to you or doing this to you and pulling this away from you because I want it? And it's just like bickering and bickering and bickering. But you think like it's as much as you just want to go, guys, come on, we love each other. We don't need to be doing that.
All they want is your attention. And if they're not getting it, then they'll just annoy each other so that at least like you'll backhand them.
It's funny, like how many times I talk to my wife, we have this conversation about like, they don't really know what they're doing. When it feels like they're trolling you over and over and over again, but it's like, they don't really know what they're doing. They are calling out for attention without realizing that they're not thinking, man, I'm not getting attention. What's a way that I can get some of it right now? They just naturally need some attention at the moment.
I have this concept called the toddler goggles.
Mm-hmm.
It works for any age where you're like, what are you doing? And then if you put on like the way they see the world, you're like, oh, of course you want to like stop at every single water fountain and check them out because you don't know that they're different or the same. You know, the annoying things they do. Or
I like that, toddler goggles.
Yeah, just get down to their level. Like even for your 9-year-old. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even at 16, it's going to be different and also not how it was when I was 16.
Evan and I got through a lot of deep stuff there, all the way to wondering about the next stages. But hold on, we've got more. He'll be bringing his co-host of the Dumb Dad podcast, fellow actor and comedian Kevin, back on the show when they host this show to see if I can not only bring the reality to parenting, but humor as well. Find them on the Dumb Dad podcast or on Instagram or TikTok. For more from the Pediatrician Next Door, find me on the web at pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com. If you've got a question about the weird things kids do, send an email to hello@pediatriciannextdoorpodcast.com for a chance to hear your voice on the show. I'm Dr. Wendy Hunter, and I'm the Pediatrician Next Door. This show is produced by Red Rock Music. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review wherever it is you're listening. I'll be back next time with more.